"When I was in London last," my sister said, "is it like when you see movies where a huge decision needs to change your life?" Sloan here. I decided to become a wedding planner well into my 40s after realizing corporate life wasn't for me. It was a difficult decision, but I knew it had to be something enriching and fun for me. I walked away from my accounting job to be a receptionist at a small wedding planning company. At first, things started off great. I was a high-performing and happy worker. It only took me 2 days of working with Dorian to realize he was something more than just a colleague. I considered myself a good person, so why did he seem to despise me so much? I was polite and courteous, yet he harassed me relentlessly at work. I retreated to the only peace I had, home with my family. Thankfully, they were understanding of my career shift. Our dad had cancer and spent a lot of time in the hospital. Yet, he constantly reminded me how proud he was of my fight for his dream. My family was in pain, but they supported me and never stopped encouraging my motivation. A few years went by, and a recent graduate named Alara joined the team. She quickly became friends with Dorian. I was happy to have a new coworker, but I felt odd about her. Her cheerful persona and never-ending conversations began to agitate me. Over time, I noticed a difference in how Dorian treated her. He praised her work and handed her tasks, while I became almost invisible. It was infuriating to see someone who just started receiving praise when I had been grinding away unnoticed for months. Yet, despite it all, I never surrendered. I knew I had the potential to become a good wedding planner, and I wouldn't let anyone erase that belief. 3 months later, I started a new job. Then my dad called to tell me he had woken up in the hospital. Though I knew it was coming, the news hit me like a ton of bricks. My family and I were in a bad way, so we took time to be together. I knew I had to tell Dorian, and he wouldn't like it. I sprinted to his office and explained that I needed a few days' leave. He was not pleased, as the request came only 48 hours before the event, but what could he do? My father had passed away. I was seething with anger at Dorian's lack of empathy, but I kept my composure and reminded myself that grief was driving my emotions. I took unpaid leave to attend my father's funeral. A few days later, when I returned to work, most of my belongings were gone. I asked Alara where my things were, and she responded, "You've been fired." I was completely confused and heartbroken. Enraged, I stormed into Dorian's office. "Sir, could we please talk?" "Alara says I've been fired." "Yes, Sloan, you've been let go." "We have prepared everything you need to leave today," he responded. "What? The day my father died, you fired me." "Unbelievable," I said. "Sloan, I'm sorry, but we have to do what's best for the business," Dorian replied. I was livid. "What are you talking about?" "I hit all my targets for this company." Dorian insisted I had been procrastinating, but I knew I had done the job. I had records of every task on my work laptop, which I pointed out, but Dorian said it had all been wiped. In that moment, I pulled out a voice recorder. "I'm not stupid," I said. "I recorded this conversation." Dorian panicked and quickly changed his tone. "Sloan, great job. This was all just a test. We wanted to check how things were going after your family tragedy," he lied. I knew it was a cop-out, but I accepted his excuse. He even offered me a promotion. I thought it was the silver bullet that would fast-track my career. Yet even with the promotion, something felt off. Work became isolating, and I didn't know why. One lunch break, I overheard Alara talking to coworkers about me. Sloan was blackmailing our boss, she claimed. When she saw me, she quickly shushed the conversation. She smiled at me innocently, pretending to be fond of me, but I had heard everything. It all made sense. My coworkers trusted Alara over me. No one supported my project ideas anymore, and my promotion was useless. I couldn't lead any team or project. Despite my efforts, I had become an outsider. Yet, even after everything, I continued to work hard, hoping that one day things would change. I thought I would be able to win my coworkers over with fresh ideas. I'd even worked an hour early to make sure I was always ahead of the game and ready for work. Except I found out a dark secret. I walked into the office that day to find Ara coming out of Dorian's office, looking really rough, her hair and clothes crumpled. That explained everything. All of a sudden, I realized Ara had only put up with Dorian because she was with him. He was probably trying to fire me to promote her in the first place. Their behavior was so disgusting to me. Ara was even engaged to another man, and she always talked about how much she wanted a big fancy wedding in the fall. So many thoughts were passing through my head at that moment that I almost forgot to hide behind the wall. Luckily, Ara was so arrogant that she wasn't even trying to be careful. She walked straight to the bathroom, unaware that I might have just discovered her biggest secret. Days after that, Ara approached me again with such a fake smile. "Hey Sloane, do you have some time? I want to ask you for a favor." "How can I help you?" I asked. "Oh, you know how Cale and I are engaged, right? I've talked to you about him, my high school sweetheart." "Yep, I remember," I replied. "Right, so we were hoping that you could help us plan our wedding." "Oh, you want me to plan it? Why so?" I asked, curious. "Well, I noticed how you haven't had any good ideas lately, and Dorian isn't happy with your progress. I thought you could use some help." "You want to help me?" "Yeah, we could help each other. You could do my wedding for free, and I could put in a good word for you. You know, Dorian is quite happy with my work. He might even give me a promotion." I knew that calculated girl was just trying to make me plan her wedding for free. I was really mad at her and her audacity, pretending she's been working hard while all she did was take advantage of immoral tricks. Almost immediately, I knew what to do about the situation. I had to correct the record. I decided to assist Ara with her wedding planning so she could carry on secretly plotting. One thing was for certain. I came to the realization that Dorian and Ara saw each other every morning, an hour or so before business hours. She soon agreed to let me plan her wedding, and I approached Cale, her poor fiancé. I even confessed to Ara how dearly her happiness was important to me, claiming I would put in a night shift the day before just so everything went perfectly. Ara was more than happy, as she loved it when people just did what they were told. The next day, she handed over spare keys for every room in her company. Of course, since she was Dorian's mistress, she had the key to Dorian's office. What she didn't know was that in the process, she gave me a key to unlocking her darkest secrets. I planned a shift to meet Cale at work when Dorian and Ara would be there. I made sure to keep this a little secret for the bride. That was my surprise. I had known what I wanted to happen when Cale and I arrived at the company that day, and true enough, we could hear Ara laughing along with Dorian. Cale looked at her skeptically but remained silent. I reached serenely into my bag and extracted the key to Dorian's office. The moment that door opened, everything came to light. Cale was too stunned to even reply. With that, he took off and left the office. Ara freaked out, scrambling for her clothes and chasing after him, calling his name frantically. Her eyes welled up with tears, but I did not pity her. I did feel sorry for Cale, though, because he had a right to know the truth about his own partner. Beside him, Dorian was attempting to pull his trousers back up and making a feeble effort at talking me around. "Sloane, please don't say anything about this," Dorian begged. "You know what, Dorian? This company is doing terribly because of you. You have destroyed my life with all this nonsense." "Oh, come on now. I'll raise your salary. Yeah, a promotion. Today. What do you say? No, Dorian. I have worked hard for this, but success in one's soul is the true form of success. I'll bring this to HR. Assuming his attempts to change my mind didn't work, Dorian showed his true colors. Do you have any proof? He asked. Not one bad thing Aura could ever possibly say about me. They all hate you. Literally, nobody will listen to you, Dorian. You're so naive. Dorian didn't answer as I left. I had the voice recorder in my pocket as a way of telling myself that when it came to dealing with a man like Dorian, I needed evidence. I then forwarded HR the recordings of Dorian, and as soon as they found out what he'd been doing, he was gone. He had even hired an office girl just to sleep with her. Dorian only made decisions to satisfy his personal whims, ruining the company in the process. Meanwhile, Aura quit her job not long after, and she left the scene in humiliation. My coworkers found out about everything and soon apologized for their behavior toward me. I never blamed them, but I made it clear that my ideals are serious, and at the office, professionalism is a must. Shortly after that, people started paying attention to what I said and wanted me on their projects. Eventually, I got the promotion I deserved. Otherwise, I would not be in my happy place now, doing all the gorgeous couple ceremonies booked with me throughout 2019. Seeing all these weddings makes me so proud of myself, and I know my dad would be very happy with what I have done.